Hello, member Tom Morrison here from the Metal Treating Institute from Jacksonville, Florida, our corporate offices. We're here for another edition of Heat Treat Live. Talk about the hot topics that you're wanting to know to get your business in a place where you need to be for the 21st century, or 2020 and beyond. So I'd like to welcome y'all. Just for any of y'all know, where we talk about energy today in a lot of different capacities. To the right over here is the chat box. You go down to the bottom here and you open up the chat box. If there's anything that you would really like to ask Mike or myself, you can go down here and type in your questions. I'll be monitoring that, and I will ask those to Mike and have him talk to you about those. So a couple of real quick things about MTI, what's happening here recently that's going really big. MTI has its wage and benefits survey submission data open. If managing labor is a really key thing, you want to know how you compete locally and nationally on labor and wages, I really encourage you to go to our website, click on heattreat.net, look up at the benefits tab and click on the wage and benefits survey, and down there is the data submission form and the directions to do that. You've got through August 31st to get that data in, and our third-party CPA firm puts that data together in a readable format that's really easy to look at and see how you compare, and you'll get that report back, and you can use that in your reviews, your end-of-the-year raises, reviews, and everything with your employees. One of the #1 tools our members tap into and use, so I encourage you to take a look at that. We also want to update people. MTI this year has been taking a lot of video footage so we can build 2 really good 2-minute videos that tell the story of what's awesome about working in the heat treat industry. The focus of this is to give you a tool on your website and to send out to your local colleges, your local high schools, to really share with people what's really good about the heat treat industry, getting involved in it and being a part of it as a career. So I just saw the draft of the first 2, and they really are dynamic and really tell a good story. So we're excited to hopefully by the end of August to have those 2 videos available for members to put on their websites and send out to local schools. The third thing is the AMEC committee is going on right now in Port Huron, Michigan. A lot of talk about aerospace specs, and we've got about 12 to 15 members as a part of that, including Robert Peters, who's our liaison to the AMEC committee, talking about 2759 and the slash specs. And the big thing is 2750. Lots of conversation going on 2750 and some changes that are going to be happening there between now and the end of the year. So lots going on. Members are plugged in. They're tuned in. They're giving you a great voice. So we hope you continue to be a part of that. So right now, though, we're here to talk about energy. And today is Red Day. I hope everybody out there in MTI land is wearing red today. It's kind of like the Tiger Woods big day on the last round he comes. This is our big day for me and Mike. So we've got Mike Payne, who's from APPI Energy. APPI Energy is endorsed by over 150 manufacturing associations in the country. And we're one of those associations. Why? Because what I always say is your customer is always someone else's prospect. And if you're busy watching the markets and not watching them, someone's in there telling them their story and getting their customer experience and possibly moving them away. So that's why we love Mike and his firm, so they can go out and you can outsource your energy needs. And at the end of this conversation, we'll talk about how you tap into that stuff. So right now, Mike, welcome to Heat Treat Live. I'd like, if you can, just take 30 to 60 seconds and just share what's APPI, what's Mike Payne about.
Sure, Tom, and thank you. It's great to be here with you and your members today. I think this is our 3rd or 4th edition of doing this in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
We really appreciate the opportunity to be able to spend time with your members like this and share information about the energy markets and possible solutions that might fit them. Briefly, I'm one of the owners and founders here at APPI. We started our firm in 1996, and we set out to establish an independent energy consulting firm that would work exclusively for end users of electricity and natural gas, like your members, all across the country. We've been successful in doing that, getting the endorsement of the associations, as you mentioned, and thank you for your endorsement and all the activity that we've had with your members over the years. Our focus is on the supply side, although we do have quite a bit of profile and services and experience on the efficiency and the renewability and the resiliency side, which I'll talk about a little bit later. On the supply side, our consultants here work, each of your members has a dedicated full-time consultant and a manager here to provide them whatever they need by way of mind share, information, market intelligence, and access to the supply solutions. They're going to help them manage and lower those electricity and natural gas costs. And Tom, in your intro there, you mentioned with members, one of the benefits of working with us is outsourcing that so that they're not spending really unnecessary time watching the markets, watching the commodities being traded and all those different aspects of that. And so maybe, Tom, the first slide, I think that we had set up with the market chart for gas is probably a good place to start.
Well, what I want to look at here is you sent me this presentation you did recently,
Okay.
and I'm looking at this title, Dynamic Energy Development, Data, Demand, Digitization, Distributed Generation, and Decarbonization. Can we get through all this in 45 minutes, Mike? That seems like such an impactful title.
Well, yeah, yes, we can, and we'll get through it in 30 minutes or less and provide time at the end for questions. And of course, any of your members can contact me at any time to dive deeper in any one of these subjects. And all of our consultants are well equipped to talk about these with them as well. If you notice in that title, I used words that started with D, starting with dynamic. And after reviewing things this winter and coming up with my focus presentation for members across these different industries for the spring, I focused on these words and concepts, which all are related, happen to start with D. It's a very dynamic energy market. One of the concepts is data. And of course, this isn't anything new for your members. They're tracking their data and their spend in many different categories by equipment, by production lines, work costs, labor costs, et cetera. Well, if they're not already doing that in the energy sector, they should be doing that. There are any number of portal-based solutions available. We've due diligenced many of those in the industry and have selected a couple that we work closely with to help our clients manage their energy costs. It pulls their monthly billings on their electricity or gas into the portal. There's no software required. It's very inexpensive, and it gives a member immediate availability, visualization of their data and their monthly expenses so that then they can begin to start using other digitalization tools and services to better manage that spend. So the first few Ds are data and digitalization, and that's what we're talking about there. Much like in all the other processes that your members have and across the scope of all the dynamic digital services out there, a lot's happening in energy as well. But we're here to discuss those things.
I got a big question for you, man. When members look at what they were spending 10 years ago, it is not anything near what they were paying in total. So with energy prices at record lows, why would we even care about monitoring usage or any of that stuff?
Well, because you always want to care about what your usage is. And there's a lot of reasons for that, because that can help your spend in several different ways, which I'll touch on later in the commentary today.
Yeah.
But really, your energy spend for all your members at their plants, if they own other buildings, is comprised of two primary components. One is the commodity side, what they're paying for the kWh or the decatherm cell that they're consuming every minute, every hour, every day, every month. The other piece is their utility costs to get that energy delivered to their meters. And baked into those utility tariff rates that members have to pay, we can't negotiate those. We can't get rid of them. We have to pay them to the local monopoly utility, but that's fine for mobile service. But baked in those tariffs are the utility costs, which include demand factors and other profile usage factors of all their customers. And there are some benefits oftentimes specific to utilities or in a broader way across the grid for members to be aware of their usage profiles and how to manage it. And we're not talking about some of the programs that your members have seen, demand response. Certainly those are valid programs that can help. But we're talking about a deeper dive than that. But very simply, it can be done using a portal, having your data in front of you, and then having a coach alongside you, one of our team members, to help go through that and show you ways to access those utility programs and capitalize on money that you're going to be spending with the utility, but perhaps lower that and manage it better.
So what are some of the key data points that monitoring can give you that when they look at it, they go, oh my gosh, we need to do something or it's a good day?
Yeah. So there are several key data points, and one of the indicators that these services can provide is you'll establish the first thing that happens in this structure and in this program where you're monitoring usage and billing and costs is it will load up 1 to 2 years of prior history, usage profile, as well as spend. So all the bills will be captured going back a couple years and then benchmarked. And so each member can then establish for each account a baseline of spend per month weather adjusted, that is there, it's ready to go, it's in a template, it's in a program. So if at any time their spend starts going way above that, or for some reason dips way below, an automatic notice, for instance, could be sent to them via text or email or staff, so that if something is awry, then they're not waiting until the next time the AC service contractor comes out, or maybe the machine and the motor just burns itself out. Well, if you had noticed that when the issues first started, and you can often notice that by the energy profile that's being used or not used, then you can deal with it, save maintenance costs, save equipment costs, and deal with this type of. So that's one example of the value of monitoring your usage and your spend. Or on the spend side, if a bill comes in and it's out of kilter, if your bench line says that you typically use 1 million kWh a month, and the cost for that, let's say, is 8 cents, $80,000, and the bill comes in as $92,000, bing, immediately you get a notice and go, wait, this bill you just got from your local utility, be it Con Edison or BGE or Dayton Power, whoever it happens to be, is out of kilter. Someone needs to look at that right away. So you don't lose time, you don't lose value in your money and your funds overpaying or going back and trying to capture something much later. So that's just two examples of what these monitoring programs are able to do to help members.
So are any of those connected? I've been in some of our members' plants, and I've seen a couple in particular that their systems are connected to lights. And so if energy goes up to a certain point inside the plant, red lights will start circling, so they can immediately tell in real time, okay, something's amuck in the plant.
Yes.
As opposed to getting it online. So how does that work?
There are several different ways and approaches and tools and services that you can use or implement, and they're all exclusive. That you don't have to do the first one to do 5. They're
right.
Different. One is where you actually attach a customized meter technology, and again, these are all bits of digitalization and technology now that are advanced. They're not bleeding edge, they're not cutting edge, they're advanced, they're proven, and they're cost effective. They're not very expensive now. So when you combine it with the intelligence in the portal and on the platform, you can get reads by attaching these little monitors. They're actually little metering devices at pieces of equipment, for instance, or at lighting centers, or at your elevator, escalators, whatever it happens to be, to monitor that usage at that granular a spot at each piece of equipment, for instance, or in a division or a section of a building. And that's in addition to at your actual electricity and or gas account level.
Right.
So you can be very granular about it, have notices come in right away when things are out of kilter, for instance.
Gotcha. Awesome. So you mentioned demand a whole lot. So, I mean, in the world of energy, why is minimizing demand so critical in a plant?
There are two primary reasons, and again, it goes back to both sides of the energy spend. On the supply side, when the competitive suppliers out there in the world that we all know and love, of course, name a few: Constellation, Direct, NG, Hudson, all these suppliers that participate in our platform to provide your members price discovery and options for solutions. Every one of those suppliers has its own unique set of pricing algorithms that takes into consideration any number of factors about your specific member, their usage profile, their credit profile. One of the key factors in that is their demand profile and their demand. It's a big driver. In fact, in most utility zones now across the nation, it's the number 2 cost component in their electricity supply. The first is the energy, the second is the demand. And that is going up. So on the supply side, the better you can manage your demand down or get it down, you'll have a better profile when the competitive suppliers are pricing out your price opportunity. And that's part of our analysis and our discussion with members on the supply side. On the other side, on the utility side of the bill, same thing there. When I touched on this earlier, where each utility has its own specialized tariff rates for delivery to different types of customers. And in some service territories, there may be 2 or 3 tariff rates that are applicable to your member.
Right.
And this is the side thing that I mentioned to you a couple of years ago. But it's not the utility's responsibility to make sure that your member is on the best tariff rate for them. The utility's responsibility is only to make sure that your member is on an applicable tariff rate.
Gotcha.
So if there's a tariff rate that's applicable, that's keyed more to demand, let's say, and you're able to manage that down, you may even be able to change your tariff profile with the utility and save money there. Alternatively, even if you can't change the tariff that you're on, within the tariff that you are on is going to be a component key to your demand. And often when your members look at the bills, if you look at the bills, most of the time there's a separate charge for demand on the utility piece of the bill, right?
Right.
You've got demand, you've got taxes, you've got other, delivery type expenses there, of course. But if you can get that demand factor better and your highest peak demand numbers down, then your tariff with your utility will be lower. Tariff cost. So both sides of it again. Demand's very important. It's something that most members have heard of and kind of have a feel for. Often they'll take some small measures to impact it, but there's still many times things out that they can do that aren't squeezing them at all. We're not talking about shutting down lines or adjusting when they operate, things of that nature. Use the technology and the digitalization to be aware, to have access to monitor it. You can do some things over time to impact that very efficiently.
Now, I know we had a couple of charts for you to kind of review to see. So here's the first one. Okay. So what are we talking about with this chart here on this usage and stuff?
Okay, so this goes back to where we started. When you prompted me to get into the title. So I did want to take a minute, even though we're talking about more data and digitalization, demand, distributed generation, I did want to talk about the commodity prices right now, because we are and we use a lot of data in our price and our commodity price analytics. Proprietary results that we have here through our sister company, the Energy Research Council, where we track electricity prices and gas prices every day from all these suppliers. This chart, if you look to the left side of the chart, this chart shows average national natural gas Henry Hub spot prices and futures contracts. Spot prices are in green, futures contracts are in the orange, over the course of the last 3 years. So if you look at the left axis, and it's not so important what the price is per MMBTU or decatherm, although it is important, but what is important is the pattern here and to the far right side of the graph, where we are now. We are at or near all-time lows for the gas commodity side of your supply needs, okay? In fact, gas is off 6, 7, 8 cents today in most markets. So if an MTI member has any of its supply position that's still open for the rest of this year and any prompt month starting in August, they can still buy August for another week or 10 days, out through the next 3 to 4 years, they should be talking with their consultant or with us. We're happy to help them with this, about maybe going ahead and hedging some percentage of their usage profile in gas for these next 36, 48 months. We have several manufacturing clients, Tom, and other industrial clients around the nation that are already fully hedged out for 2, 3, 4 years, given these low prices. So it's something that they should be looking at now. Many of your members have done a lot of this work on their own before, have tracked markets, might work directly with a supplier, or they have a broker just for gas. It's always good to have another opinion, another look at the analytics from another third-party independent point of view, which we can provide to them and help if they'd like that. So if you look at the pricing and the timing, why not now? One of the things this chart also shows us is that many of your members, again, who are experiencing this have often said, well, I like to buy at certain times of the year because there's shoulder months and prices come up and go down. Well, if you take out these two spikes that occurred in January of 18 and December, January of 18-19, those two spikes, the rest of the curve is pretty flat with a bias down, of course, in the last year and a half or so. So, it doesn't behoove a customer to think that automatically I should buy during March or I should buy during October or November, which historically had been the way a lot of people chose to buy their gas. Now you can look out farther and get really low prices. And two, throughout the year, you should be looking at this because those old tests about March and the fall aren't necessarily holding true. You see a little softness this year in that March. It picked up and then it came back. But now look where we are. Here we are rolling into full-time summer. I know it's probably hot in Jacksonville today. It's really hot here in Maryland. And we have PJM peak usage warnings out for all the PJM grid system where many of your members are in Ohio and Pennsylvania and Northern Illinois, right? Maryland, et cetera. So there's a peak warning out there now. If they can ratchet back their usage this afternoon or the next 3-4 afternoons, they should be trying to do that to get that peak demand number down.
So how long can someone buy out if they say, I want to max out my hedge? Well, how far can someone buy out?
It's going to depend upon their usage profile. Of course, when their current contract expires, their credit status and their risk. But there are several suppliers now, and certainly almost all the major ones are open to talking with clients and quoting prices out at least 3 to 4 years, and some are actually now quoting even 5 and 6 years out for gas. We have some suppliers that are quoting now 8-year terms, getting out to 2026, 2027 on electricity in some markets, particularly ERCOT. We had some suppliers come in and price some of the Ohio customers recently into 25 and 26. On the gas side, a little shorter because the trading and the market is thinner out there, and there's a little more risk, suppliers think. But basically, they could lock in now for 3, 4, 5 years on gas and conceivably 5, 6, 7 years for electricity.
Well, a thought process that goes to my mind is being at the lowest level we've had in the last 3 years. When you add up the number of months, those 3 spikes, it accounts to about 9 months. If you were locked in at the $2 rate or whatever that low rate is for 3 years, how much business would you have had as a competitive advantage in those 9 months, because you're able to quote energy on your quotes so much? I mean, we're in an industry that 1% on $1 million order means a lot. So if you're able to have $2.25 gas when everybody else is buying at 4 and 5 because the spike went up for 3 months, how much business are you gaining or losing because you did or did not do it? That's kind of what goes to my mind.
Well, and that's exactly right. When you look at, and another thing that goes through my mind, because this is what customers talk to us about all the time, is who have been hedging it in bits and pieces or themselves doing it. Wearing that risk is one thing. If you missed it and the spike hits, you've blown your budget. But secondly, it's that worry and that stress on the owner or the operating manager that, it's really not necessary for them to put themselves through that.
Right.
You might be able to manage this more effectively over a 2 or 3 year period. You can pick a time period. You might be able to, quote, beat the market or at least come out average of the market. But, at what cost to you, both from a time perspective as well.
Well, I want to pull this. This is another graph I know you had on your presentation. I want to pull up for members to see. So give us a little background of what this is.
Okay, so this now ties into the demand discussion now that we've been having. Okay, so this is just an example of a client that where we pulled data, and this is their usage profile for various dates. You can see the different dates in here. It was a week during October of last year. But basically, all the green up to the green dotted line, that's their usage profile during those days, during that period of time, that is pretty standard for them, and it's not what's called peak or getting above this benchmark line that we've set.
Right.
The brown or light tan pieces above that line, above the set point, that's their usage that we're going to try to lessen, that we're going to try to remove totally or lessen it, because that usage that's happening then are during the periods of peak cost for usage for that customer behind that utility. So through the digitalization, through the platform, through the battery technology, artificial intelligence, the different things that we can use and employ, you can see this, you can have the awareness, you can preset it so that when we hit certain set points, you'll change over your demand and usage profile will flip and go down, so that you're now going to flip and use kWh sourced by your battery during the periods of highest cost.
Right.
Off the grid supply, that's the brown that you want to avoid. That will impact your demand profile when you're pricing going forward across the board that we discussed earlier. So this is just a representation of that. Each client, of course, will have its own chart, its own look, something like this. And once you realize where the benchmarks are and what they need, that they, and then when to flip over to the battery and use artificial intelligence to understand that, then you can start implementing that. But that's what this represents.
Well, you mentioned artificial intelligence, and in every industry, data and real-time data to help you make what I call really quick, on-time decisions to fix things fast. So how's artificial intelligence really changing the game in the world of industry, energy management for anybody?
It's changing it. It's changing our energy world, again, dynamically and rapidly. Just a few years ago, battery technology was still relatively expensive. The lives of batteries were not as long as you really needed to get a good ROI. That technology has advanced rapidly. in part due to advances in artificial intelligence as well. Artificial intelligence, on the other hand, is also advanced rapidly with more entities in that space. The cost for the AI has come down dramatically, and its effectiveness has gone up. So when you match improved battery technology with improved artificial intelligence, match them together and pair them together in the right scenario for the right client, it can be a very effective cost-cutting, cost management solution. And then you could even look at combining that, for instance, with solar supply. If they have solar on site, where solar can provide what you need. So the key is to get some resiliency and awareness, get off the highest cost usage time frames. What resources can I have on site to give me comfort and resiliency, alternatives, and protect me from those spikes that we looked at in the charts, both on my usage profile as well as on the market profile.
Well, you mentioned solar, so talk to me about this slide here. This thing, when you sent this to me, I thought it was like a baseball stadium down here. It's amazing this solar field looks like. So what is this?
Yeah, that's right. So at the bottom left, that's a picture of part of a solar farm in Southern California, out in the desert area, not far from the Palm Springs, Palm Desert area. And if you notice, it looks like those are seats in a stadium, and the back of the seats are up and the seats are empty. Well, when this picture was taken, the utility there, SoCal Edison, had directed solar farms to actually shut down production. So these solar farms now, most of them have the technology where they can immediately, via, again, digitalization, computer technology, ratchet down their production by moving the solar panels in any one direction or just shutting them down totally, so that they're actually, even during very, very sunny periods, you can ratchet the production of your solar farm down or up based upon the pitch of the solar panels and controlling it with the artificial intelligence. All that needs to be keyed into the grid system for the grid to operate effectively and smoothly and incorporate solar as a resource. So solar, it used to be in yesterday, so I'm gonna put a few solar panels on my building or on my home, or maybe I'm tapping into a community solar program for 10% of my usage profile, et cetera. It was very rudimentary and basic, and solar was a standalone resource and solution. Well, now what we see today is solar becoming paired much more often with battery and artificial intelligence. That's what the battery is there. Or on-site technologies and digital-based programs to manage when solar's produced, when it's used, and how you integrate with the grid. And then tomorrow, really, Lord knows what the solution is going to be. None of us know. All we know is it's very dynamic. And with the digitalization, the awareness, lower energy costs, solar can still be very impactful and effective. There are still some tax benefits available for a while. We'll see what happens in Washington and some of the state governments next year, next couple of years, about credits and incentives. But be that as it may, no matter what happens on the political side, on the technology side of solar, batteries, artificial intelligence, data capture programs and portals is ever advancing. And with artificial intelligence, whether you're on Facebook and you're very active there, you're very active in social media, you're very effective using social media with your membership and with your other business colleagues. Well, every time that you go on there and post something, or you go on there and look at something, the artificial intelligence that Facebook has keyed to that site is getting smarter about you, about your tendencies, your profiles, what you're posting, who you're connecting with. So every time you use a technology, it gets smarter if it's programmed right. So same thing happens here on the energy side. So if a customer has some artificial intelligence capability attached to a battery at its location, every second, every minute, it's getting smarter about that facility's profile.
That's awesome.
Because it has more history. It's got more actuality. And all these solutions are, of course, weather normalized. So, for instance, here on July 15, 16, 17, these 3 days, it's very, very hot here in Maryland. Maybe these 3 days last year weren't as hot. I don't think they were. I think there were several degrees cooler. Well, when you look at energy spend and comparative benchmarking, you have to weather normalize those periods. That's part of an algorithm. And artificial intelligence can better help predict that and then anticipate it.
So I know we talked about solar. Is there any growth still in like water, wind? I mean, any energy sources that you can see that are going to
Yes.
impact?
Yes. In fact, we're quite active across the renewable side of things with our clients, either by greening up their supply through their energy supply contract or helping them understand opportunities directly with a renewable resource, whether it's wind, solar, hydro. In fact, we're currently working on 2 hydro projects now, one in Pennsylvania and one in Illinois. I had a call earlier this morning around that with the developer, with the supplier, and some other consultants. We continue to see solar, wind, hydro, and other renewable resources growing steadily. To give you an example, Iowa and Texas are, I believe, 2 of the and Oklahoma, I think, are the 3 leading states in terms of wind production now, and a very high percentage of the overall usage of electricity in those 3 states is now provided by wind resources. Solar is growing in the Sun Belt in California, but across the country. Hydro is now seeing a resurgence. The cost of capital's down. So, and frankly, for hydro to work, you have to have a dam or a good flowing river. Yeah. Some of the environmental concerns have been figured out around that, and they're so that another hydro plant downriver isn't going to be that impactful environmentally, and so that's such that they can't do it. So you see that as a continuing resource coming on. So yes, there's a big increase there, and your members have an opportunity to participate in the renewable space in several different ways, through the supply contract or directly, in a supply relationship or vendor relationship with one of those renewable resources.
Awesome. So you talked about a number of elements of generation efficiency. So is there any other generation or efficiency solutions that we have not discussed?
Well, yes, there are a lot of them. I sent in that PowerPoint I had was a chart where I had a sort of blue and white bar chart there. If you have that, where I put them into categories. These are some very straightforward. It's the one that one. Okay, so your members can see this. You can share this with them. But fault diagnostic, BMS controls, HVAC upgrades and modifications, dual duct systems, all the way out to the right, CHP, combined heat and power programs, that's an intense, big time decision. But for certain customers, a CHP program on site, if they consume gas and they create steam or excess, a lot of water usage and electricity, a combined heat and power program might work for them to lower their overall costs, finally all the way out to lighting upgrades. So this is just a few of the many efficiency and supply reduction or management solutions that members should be taking a look at.
Right.
And if you're interested in any of this, we can match them up with one of our engineers, with a strategic partner, to discuss this with them.
Awesome. Well, so Mike, in closing for your comments, here's what I'd like to say to you members. I go back to your customer is always someone else's prospect. It's imperative that you're spending as much time on them, not on energy costs. And APPI Energy is used by a whole host of our members around the country. And I'd highly encourage you to take a look at their services and product. I think you should be using somebody, whether it's them or somebody. But APPI Energy is a big supporter of MTI. They're a big supporter of the National Association of Manufacturers. So they're in your game, working with manufacturing associations on a constant basis. So we'd encourage you to, if nothing else, get them a copy of your energy bill. Let them do a full recourse on your bill, and let you know how they can help you take time off the energy bill and put it back into serving your customers. So Mike, with that said, any lasting comments you'd like to say?
No, Tom, thanks again. I think that's a good way to close. As part of the member benefit program that APPI provides to your membership, we will do that review of a bill or several bills. We can provide even deeper dive analytics around your fuel usage, profiling your building, your systems, and all that's done at no initial cost to the member. This is all part of the member benefit program that's part of the member dues that they're paying. So why not take advantage of it? It's we're an independent third party resource with expertise in these areas, and from there we build on that. But you can't build a solution and truly know its ROI without what? Without the data,
right?
digitalization to allow you easy access to it that you can use in a usable form without, looking at your demand, looking at distributed generation. What else can I do to help give me some comfort and safety, reliability around my resources? And then look at all these other decarbonizations. And at the end of the day, when you're doing that, you're also then, whether you know it or not, you are effectively decarbonizing your footprint.
Yeah.
And so it's always a good thing. And I know you and I feel strongly about that. And, you have to take them one step at a time. But at the end of the day, I think it's incumbent upon all manufacturers, all of us, to at least be looking at that and trying to figure out how we can help that. So,
well, with healthcare, labor, and energy, those are the big three on any income statement of a leader. And I think y'all bring some great solutions to the table. Members, give them a quick look and see what they can do for you. Mike, thank you so much for being on our show today. And members, just a couple of closing comments. The big one is our technical specifications webcast. The next Heat Treat Live will be on August 7th at 1:30. We're going to bring you the latest information on NADCAP, on AMEC committee, on the 2750 review going on. Lots of big things. ASTM, CQI9. If it's a technical spec, we're going to talk about it and get you on the front end, transparency and getting the stuff out in the open so you find out about it ahead of time, not when it's already passed. We got a lot of members working on that stuff. We're going to bring that to you on August 7th to give you an update so you know what to do. So, Mike, thank you again for your time. Members, thank you for tuning in. You're not just strong, you're MTI strong, my friends. We'll see you next August 7th on Heat Treat Live.
Thanks, everybody, for your business. Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you for your support.
You bet. Bye-bye.